We are here because we are dedicated to helping the entire CrossFit community. Determined to elevate coaches, box owners, athletes, and everything in between, we believe that this mission will begin right here, right now. While this time and this goal begins with you, our hope is that you take this fire ignited within you and weave it into your own life with the same unrelenting passion to give those you have the privilege of coming in contact with the best hour of their day.
All right, it's official. This meeting is being recorded. We are here with David Osorio, owner of CrossFit South Brooklyn. In my opinion, David, it's simply Ackerman's opinion, so take it for what it's worth. Most successful box in the world. Most successful CrossFit affiliate in the world.
I don't want to argue with you. I mean,
Come on.
No, I think we do all right. It's hard to know. I mean, I think success is so relative. But we do okay. We've been around for a while, so I'll accept the compliment. I'll say that. I don't think it's accurate, but I'll accept it.
Well, let me tell you why I think you're the most successful. And for the listeners, David has not shown me his books, but I can do some member math. Uh-huh. And I've been to the box, so I think it's multifaceted. It's one, I've been to a box and the community is strong, and it's 100% what Fern and I talk about. It's trickle down. You walk into that box, it looks like David lives here. I mean, the art in the bathrooms match the ink on his arms, and it's just, the vibe is really, really cool. And I think that's something completely overlooked. You and I spoke about that when you've been on the show in the past, but I think, man, CrossFit hit a time when it was like, hey, we have to be the shiny gym and blah, blah, blah. And we lost sight of, no, what's really cool is when it has a vibe to it. Like a coffee shop, you go to Starbucks, you want a quick coffee, you know what you're getting. You go to the local spot down the road because you know they're playing Avril Lavigne or whatever is going. I don't know why I just said that, but you get what I'm saying. But let me go on. You seem to be having a really good time from a distance. From what I can see in your life, you don't look overly burdened by the box, meaning you clearly still spend a lot of time there. You clearly still put in a lot of work, but you also have a very, robust life outside of it. I mean, your social life, and I see pictures of you and your friends and family. And lastly, the community looks like they're having a good time and they're getting fitter.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I know, to speak to that first note, about how, there was a movement towards like the flashy box or whatever it is, the very kind of cookie cutter and very clean lines type situation, which is great. There's so many ways you can be successful. But when I started the business, from before it started, I wanted that place, like you're taking a road trip and you pull over and there's this unexpected little shop that's been there for, however many years or decades. And there's, all sorts of random stuff on the wall. And it feels like authentic. It feels like something that could never be replicated, anywhere else, because it's so just true to that moment in time and that community and the people there. So that's what I wanted. So, it's, the vibe of the gym, it's clean, it's organized, but it tries to maintain a little bit, that kind of rough around the edges, a little bit of character. The old school gym days where like each gym was, a whole new surprise. You'd walk in and you'd look at the stuff they have on their walls and all the little relics that they've built up over the years. So that's definitely the vibe and the look I was going for. So thank you for that.
Let me ask you a question with that being said. Is there anything that at one point, when you first opened, because you opened in what, 2006 or 7?
2007.
Right, same year. You actually, I believe, when it used to be listed chronologically, we were like 3 or 4 boxes apart on the sidebar. Is there anything that at one point you had up in South Brooklyn, and I know you've relocated a handful of times, but that now in 2021, you're like, maybe we put that back up?
Honestly, nothing comes to that we would not put back up. Is that what you said?
I don't know. Was there a poster that you're like, hey, could it be offensive or?
No, I don't think
anything like that.
No, there was nothing really like that. I'll tell you though, I mean, kind of on a related note to try to answer your question, we, during our closure, I ended up taking down our leaderboards. And we did some other kind of like wholesale changes kind of to the programming style and some things that we did. But I took down the leaderboards, and it's the kind of thing that like we had them up for, 12 years plus. I took them down. I didn't think they were super reflective of the actual capacities of the people. Like, when you've been around as long as we have, you might have that guy or girl who was there for like 6 months in 2008, blasted some amazing times or something like that. And then people are like, who the hell is that person? So I think that like, we took down those boards and nobody really missed them. And maybe that's just the culture of our gym. I don't know. But that's the only thing that we've taken down that I'm like, I'm good with not having those up. I also felt like the weight stuff was like, it's not weight class based. So it's like, you just have the biggest and strongest, guy and gal who happen to put up the biggest, deadlift, but it's not truly reflective. Obviously you can work around with the weight classes and stuff like that, but we just decided like, I don't know how beneficial this really is. And we took those down.
Did you get any pushback from the members about that?
No.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that's something similar. Like 2007-8, I remember buying electrical tape and shower board at Home Depot, and
that's exactly what we had. Exactly.
Yeah, but you're right. It's kind of like, hey, we preach this. You're not competing with others. You're competing with yourself.
Yeah.
Yet here we have that leaderboard, and I think that's totally accurate. Somebody comes in for a month in 2009, throws down a 2-minute grace, and their name's been on that leaderboard for 13 years.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
to the point where people on staff don't even know who the hell that person is,
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that it's like, the people who are competitive in your gyms will find ways to be competitive, to track their progress, compete against the other competitive people. But really, I would say the vast majority of our membership are just there to have a good time, get a good workout in, have fun, be safe and enjoy their hour. We got some of the other things I mentioned, some program changes. If we stopped doing RXs, we don't have any RXs in our workouts, and that's made things so much easier. And that we got a lot of positive feedback on, like a ton. And I know I'm not alone, doing that. I know there's other gyms that I've talked to who've done the same thing, but you have to describe the workout, the flavor and the intent anyway. It's not like you're doing anything you're not already doing about this should be heavy, this should be 2 to 3 sets per round, given those coaching points. But when we took that off, there's never anybody who's like reaching for something that they really shouldn't be doing because they have this somewhat arbitrary, notion on the board that, I'm a guy, so I have to do 95 pounds, whether I'm, 215 pounds or I'm, 100 pounds. So that was really positive, I think. And that we had a lot of positive feedback from members just to be like, I really like not having to worry about the RX anymore. And we might sometimes give a slant of like 5 weights that they might choose from, right? So like this would be kind of on the very heavy end. What you might do might be 315, on the lighter end, it might be 95 or less, et cetera. But that's something that I think has really kind of freed up the programming. And I think that, RX is obviously makes sense in competitive CrossFit, but competitive CrossFit is very different than affiliate programming, in my opinion. 2 very, very different things and different attitudes and intentions.
That's really interesting. We talk about an RX month where we recommend that boxes do exactly what it sounds like you've done, not for the entire year. So when you say that, I assume gymnastics have an RX. In other words, you're saying, hey, today we're doing thrusters and pull-ups.
Mm-hmm.
But the movement, the weightlifting doesn't have an RX, regardless of what the workout is.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, and I wouldn't, it's funny. I don't know if I would call that an RX. I mean, it would, like you say, strict chin-ups is, in the workout today. I guess that would technically be the RX. But we'll have like the description of the workout. We'll have what the workout is. And then there's always notes below it that kind of talk through each of the movements. So it's like, if you don't have strict chin-ups, consider kipping pull-ups or ring rows or what the options are for today, the specific red and step schemes. So it's kind of like, scalar. So everything would be like, strict pull-ups is version 1, version 2 is going to be kipping pull-ups, version 3 is a banded pull-up, at half volume or whatever it is. And then version 4 is a ring row, so that everybody can kind of just look on that ladder and just jump in where they need to. So I guess technically, that would be RX, but we just kind of get away from the mindset of like, this workout was done RX or not. It's just, you did a workout. You're a person who came in and did your workout,
What do you use to track the workouts? You know, for example, Watify, Sugar Watt. What you guys? I believe we're using Zen Planner back in the day.
We're still using Zen Planner for our memberships, but we use Beyond the Whiteboard. So, and we actually
that's right. You do all the videos and whatnot. That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, because Mo and a bunch of those guys from Beyond the Whiteboard are members. Some of them have moved out of the city since, but so we have a really good relationship with them. They plug our workouts into what's it called? Into their app. But we communicate it internally just through, we've got a Google Doc, and then that feeds into our Google Calendar.
What? I don't want to knock Beyond the Whiteboard. I think it's a great platform and I've used it in the past, but why do you think it's kind of, and maybe it's just I'm not seeing it, but to me, from an outside perspective, I feel like less affiliates are using it. Is that accurate, or am I just not seeing it, so I'm biased?
Yeah, I don't know. It's relative market share. I think for us, it was just like, I'm always like, if there's people in our community that have a business and we're able to support them, and they've been around forever, they're so true to I think like what they want, their goal is really in line with our goal and our vibe and our essence. And I'm sure there's other great, I know people use Watify and stuff. I just don't know anything about those companies.
I like it's been a long time. I think Beyond the Whiteboard was really ahead of its time, especially in the CrossFit space. I would recommend, obviously I think the pros to Sugar Watt, and again, I don't have any skin in this game, but simplicity, like I think that's part of it. Like, I got involved in crypto, like I'm putting money into crypto. I highly recommend you buy Bitcoin, but some of the platforms are like, oh fuck, this is so, I need to get a PhD in order to use it. And I think Beyond the Whiteboard could have a little bit of that going on.
I think they've got a lot of functions, but as just on the user end, I just put in what I need to put in, and it's straightforward. I put in my workout, but you can do like nutrition tracking, weights, pictures, all sorts of stuff, badges, and there's a social element. I just put in my workout and I'm good to go.
You're wearing a Rob Van Dam shirt. I just want to touch on this in case anyone's watching the YouTube version of this. Did you watch the recent documentary on him? It was really good.
I did. Yeah. He was my favorite wrestler growing up, for sure. I used to sneak down after my parents fell asleep, because they would play ECW at like 2 a.m. or something on the local broadcast.
You were getting it from Philly.
Yeah, so I would sneak down to my basement and watch ECW and came up with that whole era.
So I was always so jealous because all the wrestlers would swing by your box. Yeah, man. But it's been like a year and a half. So
I know.
From what I hear, they're going back on tour. So are you excited to get like John Cena and Seth Rollins and Cesaro to come back to the box?
Yeah, they're going back on tour. We were looking. They haven't announced any Brooklyn dates. I don't know if they're doing like more open air arenas or stuff first. I'm not sure what the deal is. But we're looking forward, because it's such a highlight. It happens like 2 or 3 times a year on average, where they all come in and come to the gym, and it's awesome. And they'll always give us, front row seats or like really great seats. It's a great time. And my girlfriend,
I see it on your Instagram stories. You're always like right up front, and I'm so upset. That's the if somebody said, what do you miss about owning a box? I would say that I miss the WWE, because they would swing by Albany and then they would give us tickets.
That's awesome. Yeah, I grew up like super, super into it, like hardcore into wrestling, pro wrestling. And then, fell out of it, out of like Attitude Era type stuff. And then my best friend from college was hired as a writer for them. So that kind of began to pull me a little bit more into it. And then they started coming to the gym. So I would go and see the current product. And then my girlfriend, actually, I met her and she was like a huge wrestling fan. So like all these things in my life inspired at the same time to like draw me back in. But it's good fun. It's a perk. And it's like, as someone who's like super into it, it's awesome. It's awesome. It's a lot of fun.
Who impressed you the most? Which wrestler came in and you're like, oh, that dude is, whether it's fit or strong?
Well, I mean, honestly, all of them in their own way. John Cena, man, that dude's forearms are like my thighs. Like he's not a huge guy, but he's just built like a fucking tank. So he had a very imposing presence. There's this guy, Sheamus and Cesaro, which are bigger guys too. Like, I'm like, we like take the group picture at the end, and I'm like, I look like a 10-year-old kid. Like, I was like,
Cesaro is He's freakishly strong.
He's very strong, very strong.
They all are.
Yeah.
So speaking of with wrestling not traveling, New York was hit extremely hard during the pandemic. I mean, forced shutdowns and for longer than most states. I had a good friend of mine, Jess, who owns multiple yoga studios in upstate New York, and we were talking about it. Now that you're back open, what were some of the things that you did during the break or during the pause or pandemic, whatever you want to refer to it as, that allowed you to, maintain the success at South Brooklyn?
Yeah. So for context, like in New York, we were closed for 5.5 months. We closed on March 16th, and we reopened September 2nd. It was by far the most stressful year of my life, and continues to be, even on the tail end of things. I think there's, it's kind of like, it was a year where everything mattered. And everything kind of always matters, but just to the nth degree in terms of the relationships, the decisions you make, your messaging, how you reopen, how you communicate, everything. And then, with CrossFit blowing up in that interim as well too, it was just a super highly charged and I think sensitive time to, be very cognizant of your values and what you're doing and why you're doing. So, kind of looking somewhat retrospectively back at it, number one is that it really makes you appreciate the investments that you put into people when things are good, because that comes back around, in times of crisis. So one, and a lot of gyms had this experience where, their members floated them for months and months. We had no idea we'd be closed for half a year essentially. And we had so many members who maintained their memberships, even if they weren't taking our virtual classes, doing whatever, it just words of support and people were really invested. And it was really, we all know how important the community is and these relationships are, because we see them and experience them every day. But it just became more apparent when we were closed down and we had some outpouring of love and support. And especially to see it relative to other businesses where you can't make those same level of relationships. So like the coffee shop where, maybe you're friendly with the people, but it's not the same level of relationship between a coach and a trainee, et cetera. So it just really made me appreciate the type of work that we're in, where people will show up for you no matter what. I think that, and same thing with staff, we try to do our best. We were lucky to not have to let anybody go through the pandemic. We had 4 coaches who voluntarily left the city, who chose to move, use that as an opportunity for a catalyst for a change in their life.
Where'd they go? Austin, Texas?
No, Ohio, Montana, and then California, Connecticut.
California, really? It seems like you're going from one bad choice to another. But so how were your members during it? For a lot of affiliates, they did get support from their members and they continued to pay. Obviously, with New York being shut down for so long, it's a long time to continue to pay your dues. And living in New York, your membership rates reflective of the area, but they're a little more than say, sure, your box here in Boulder. So did you even give them the option to support the box
during closure?
Yeah, during those 5 months.
Yeah, we had people who kept their memberships on. We had some people who kept them on the entire time. They never missed a beat, missed a payment from closing to opening. And then we had, some people who held on for a couple of weeks, a couple of months, half the time, 3, it's all over the place. We had a really active virtual class. We actually still have AM virtual classes. I think we're one of the few gyms that are able to keep it up a little bit. And we're still getting about 10 or so people in our morning virtual class.
Why are you doing that?
Well, we started it when we were closed. And, we had daily offerings, Pilates, mindfulness, yoga, our main workout class, active recovery. We had a few different things, our kids programs. And honestly, it was just I'm just going to keep running it until it's not profitable. So we had a membership for $185, which was a virtual membership, which we created when we were getting closer to opening. And we were like, all right, we're going to have a virtual membership and we're going to have our normal membership. And, lo and behold, there was a lot of people who weren't ready to come to the gym, didn't want to come back, or just got into the flow with the virtual classes and it was really convenient for them. And it turned out to be a good solution for them. But I think that like the reason our virtual program, did so well, and I think it's the same reason our gym has been around as long as it has, is because of the coaches. It was like the investment showing up for people, being engaged, making it fun, making the most out of not a great situation. So we still have classes. I anticipate this month will be our last where we offer the morning classes. But again, it was just sort of like, when we reopened, I was like, oh, this thing's going to go bust pretty soon. But like we actually had an increase after we reopened in terms of virtual memberships and people signing up, and people from other gyms who had stopped their virtual programs wanted to continue and then joined us because they found us somehow.
That's cool. Was there a moment during this time where you thought this might be it? Like we might have to shut down?
I think that I didn't think I was quite there. I was like, we have enough support we have enough, coming in from the members who are still active and support, and we're not too big to fail, but like I didn't think we'd get to that point. I just didn't know how much we would have to contract. One thing I'll say kind of to your original question that kind of falls in line with that too, is that we were able to get 2 rounds of PPP, which was extremely helpful. And the reason we were able to do that is because every single employee is a W-2. So the PPP calculations are all based on your payroll. So there's a ton of gyms that got hit really hard because everyone's a 1099. So I've got like that I felt good about too, where I was like, I think it's, in my opinion, it's like, if these are employees, they should be treated as such. They're not independent contractors, right? And I think a lot of gyms try to skirt and try to like shortchange, their expenses by just, we'll put everyone as a 1099. And I think that comes back to bite you in the ass in a few ways in terms of just like retention and loyalty of staff and employees, in terms of the basic ethics of it and investment in your people. But that was all, we wouldn't have gotten, any money really if everyone was 1099. So I ran into that a lot talking to other affiliates who are like, oh, our whole staff is 1099s. We have one person technically on the books and we got no PPP. So, I felt good about like, we've done this the right way forever. Every single person, front desk staff, coaches, everybody is a W-2. So that was something that was like, I felt like that was kind of an investment in people that came back to help me in a very meaningful way. So the 2 PPP loans really helped keep us above water because we paid full rent. We didn't have any breaks the entire 5.5 months, and our rent's over $30,000 a month. So it's nothing. Whoa. It's nothing to sneeze at.
That might be the most expensive rent in all of CrossFit.
Yeah, because we have 3 leases. We have the 2 buildings across the street from each other and a second floor on one of them. So we have technically 3 leases. And my landlords were just like, tough shit, pay your rent, like they weren't mandated there was no canceled rent or anything like that. So that helped us really get through that. We also kept our employees on their health insurance active. Even if they came off of employment for a period of time, we kept their health insurance active as like an investment in them. And we just paid the full health insurance. We paid 100%. Like we do 80-20 split. So the gym pays 80% of our coaches' health insurance. They pay 20%. And then during closure, we just kept everyone active. And like I said, like those investments come back to you.
Yeah, I just want the listeners to hear that. And it's like, what came first type of thing, right? Like, did you have a successful box? So then you decided to reward the coaches, or did you take care of your people and now you have a successful box? When, I assume when you first opened, I know you started in the park, and all that, and you can listen, David and I spoke about that on a previous episode, but was there a period of time where everyone working for you was a 1099 or an independent contractor?
I don't think, I'm trying to remember, maybe in the very beginning, and I probably just, in the very early days, I probably just paid cash, to be honest with you, like the dark ages. Yeah. No, there was never a period, like once we started to build out a staff, everyone was a W-2. And like I had come from, I think we talked about it the first time we had sat down together for the podcast, was that, I was a working trainer. I had worked at big box gyms. I had, gone to school for exercise science. So I came into the affiliate ownership game from the perspective of what it's like to be a working coach, a working trainer, and I think a lot of affiliate owners don't have that perspective. They've never been up at 4 a.m., 5 days a week and done the morning shift, the afternoon block, the evening shift, 7, 8 sessions a day, and then, for pennies on the dollar. So I think, for me, it was really important to like, no, this is a business. I'm not going to push my tax and financial obligations onto the people who are working for me.
That's really important, because I think so many box owners get frustrated that their, coaching staff isn't doing what they expect, or, stepping up or putting in more work. And it's like, well, are you taking care of them? Because that's a really big deal. Most of those coaches don't know enough to put money aside for taxes. They're certainly not getting health insurance. So I think that's really awesome. Do you ever look back? I do all the time. Like, I was working at Gold's Gym for $8 an hour, and was like, I remember in like 2004, 5, 6, I'm like, man, if I can just make $36,000 a year, that's all I ever need. Like, that's more than enough money. Like, I'm going to be the trainer till I'm, 50, 60 years old, wearing a fanny pack, Zubaz pants. And now, both of us have had a fair amount of success. Do you ever look back and reminisce on those meager days?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like, I remember working, for YMCA and Equinox and getting like 15 to 25 bucks, on the hour for my session, especially Equinox, where like they were paying like over 100, I think. And the trainers were getting like, 20, 25 bucks or something like that, if you were like a tier 1 employee at the time. And, you just made it work. And like, I've always been a little bit, I live within my means, I always try to, I'm not someone who needs like flashy shit or whatever. And I've like, since I was in high school basically, but really since college, I was like, everything's about reinvesting in this business and just making my own financial footprint as small as possible so that I can grow this thing. But yeah, so it's like, we had, at the gym in the early days, obviously you as the owner, you do everything, but like we had we didn't have a front desk. We had a pencil pouch. We had an honor system membership for years. It was just said, please leave $20. And it was just honor system every day. That was it. Leave $20 in the envelope and then come get a workout in. So I look fondly on those days, but it's nice to have a little bit more wiggle room and a little more comfort now.
Yeah, it's just it's crazy how far CrossFit has come, and that affiliate ownership is not just like, hey, you're the trainer that now owns their own space. There are plenty, if not thousands, hundreds of CrossFit affiliates for sure, that, the owner's making 6+ figures. I think that notion of you'll never be, whether rich is the right word, owning a box is obsolete at this point.
Yeah, for sure.
So you're also the district rep for New York and New Jersey. How did that come about? Did you give Castro a buzz and say, put me on?
No. I think that, so they had, he set that role up when there was a big transition. I think that was still pre-Eric, pre-Rosa, when that initially got launched. And, like everything would happen with CrossFit. And I think that, with the new leadership coming in, I was like, this is a good opportunity, I think, in many ways for us to manifest the company that we always kind of wish we had a little more of, especially because in the years prior to that, the 2 years or so, CrossFit had been contracting so much in terms of like getting rid of the knee department and, social media and all the things that you're like, what are you guys doing? Like, what is going on? Or why are we trying to sink this ship? So, my name was floated for New York, New Jersey by a couple people, and they just reached out to me and said, hey, are you interested? And I was like, if I'm going to be part of this, I want to be as much as I can a catalyst for positivity in it. And like I love talking shop. I love sharing what we do. I don't want to be a guy. Like, I'm not looking to be any sort of like personality. Like, I don't care about but I want to help. So this was a perfect opportunity to meet with affiliates, and it's been great. And it was actually kind of a perfect timing because, I weekly, I talk to affiliates. We get on Zoom calls and we, talk shop, and they have questions about, things they're doing and their practices and how would I go about that. And I give my perspective and stuff, or help connect people. But I think now more than ever, it was so great to have a network of other affiliate owners, because, being the owner is really isolating. It's an extremely isolating experience to be, especially without partners, being any sort of business owner. And you can have the best staff in the world and people who care will bend over backwards for you, but no one really gets that view from the top unless you're there, and all the stress and everything comes with it. So just being able to be honest and vulnerable, and give other affiliate owners space to just sort of decompress a little bit, and realize like you're not alone. Like, yes, the whole fucking world's upside down right now, and like and it's also like that we're all human. Like, you look from the outside and you're like, oh, South Brooklyn is like amazing, it's this and that, but like we're all just human. We all have our faults, we all have our shortcomings, we all have the things that we wish we could do over or whatever. So I think it's been really great also just to connect on such a human level with so many other affiliate owners. And I know for just personally, for me, it's been really, really helpful. But I think it's been helpful for a lot of other folks that I've been able to connect with as well.
What are some of the common themes you hear from the box owners in New York and New Jersey? What are the biggest problems they face? Obviously, getting back into the swing of things, like you mentioned with the pandemic, but what are some other things that you hear pretty often?
So like the things that affiliates want from CrossFit more of, probably the most consistent thing is marketing. Better marketing, meaning like, CrossFit has the ability, has the voice and the platform to really show what happens in an affiliates and who are the real kind of people that go to affiliates, not the games athletes, obviously, like, so, the public perception of CrossFit, the marketing, the image of it, globally, I think that affiliates want CrossFit to put that in, like, and invest more into that. And I think they have, and, they're moving that direction for like reshaping the image of what CrossFit is, who goes to a CrossFit gym, things like that. So, support on marketing so that people can get, more folks coming into their gym and they don't have to explain what CrossFit is and these misconceptions about it. A lot of people come into the door with an idea of it, and it could be any number of things. So, having a more consistent and concise voice from the top, educating the public in general about what CrossFit is, what happens to affiliates, and who goes there. We have been talking about, why we basically have, another common thing is why we as affiliates have not been able to leverage our purchasing power collectively to get better deals on things like equipment, cleaning supplies, et cetera. And right now they're piloting a program. It's starting in the Northeast, but they are doing exactly that. They're basically putting, vendors together and being like, hey, you as an affiliate can go to your portal, you'll have access to all these cleaning products and these things we buy, and we can buy them all in one spot at a better rate. So they're working on that. Other stuff is like, a lot of affiliates want, and like the mantra that CrossFit has right now is like tools, not rules. Trying to provide tools for affiliates, but not, putting them in a box of this is how it has to be done. And that's a difficult thing to do, because like you want to give kind of suggestions and best practices, but there's obviously multiple ways to skin a cat. So not kind of like, pigeonholing yourself, this is the one way you have to do this thing. So like, some of those tools that people are asking for too is like, a hiring, like somewhere where I can go and see who are the coaches that are looking for work. So not just like, the posting of all the people with level 1s, level 2s, but like in my area, who is looking for work and what affiliates are hiring for what kinds of roles. Because right now, especially, I hired 2 people and it was really rough. I've never put out a wanted ad, like we're hiring ad in 13 years. And that was the first time, very recently I could do that. And it was really tough. And I was like sending DMs and I was like calling affiliates and I was just reaching out to everyone I knew. And it's like, man, it's like crazy. There's not a better way that I can just go to some database and be like, look at all these, coaches looking for work right now in my area. And I can reach out to them and set up an interview. So it's like, it's general support, I think it's more, and having someone to talk to is really good. So having someone you can like, bounce ideas off of. So that's part of the the district rep role is that I'm essentially a liaison between CrossFit and the affiliates. And I'm someone there that, at 2 a.m, you can send an email to and be like, hey, can we set up a meeting tomorrow? I have some questions. So that's been particularly helpful for newer affiliates too, where folks just getting into it with a million questions and, instead of making all the mistakes that I made and you and I made in the early days, helping them, it's like the stuff you're doing with the affiliate university, just, resources for affiliates. So they don't just go at it alone.
I love that expression, the tools, not rules. I think that's really cool because, during the whole pandemic, obviously we also got hit with the Coach Glassman thing.
Yeah.
And, many people de-affiliated. And I think, yes, a lot had to do with him and the tweet and all of that. But there was this idea that they're not getting enough from CrossFit. But as you know, it's an affiliate and we're paying at most $3,000. And I think at the time, a lot of affiliates were not understanding, or at least their expectations were a little bit unrealistic.
Yeah.
So and then I think this district rep role came from that. And now they do have someone like you with a ton of experience, expertise, and, success to be able to lean on. So it's just great that they I think CrossFit hears what's going on. And a lot of times it's like, well, we told you this 3 months ago. Why isn't it changed? And it's like, how about you give us, 6 months, a year? And
I think, being in a little bit more of the belly of the beast for the first time ever, you see how the sausage is made. It takes a lot. It's a big ship, and it's like, we're used to being, small business owners that like, we should do this thing. And we just do it, and it's just like, we send an email like, all right, this is the new schedule, or this is the new, whatever, the payment structure, whatever. And I think you can appreciate, like, it doesn't work like that when you're that big. And, it takes a lot of work and a lot of communication and a lot of resources and money to make all this happen. And I think that, like, I agree with you that a lot of affiliates are like, gimme, right? And it's like, you're not paying that much. We have this crazy notion that $3,000 a year is a lot of money to be part of, to have the name as part of your affiliate and things like that. Like, it's not that much money, it's a relative to a franchise, So a lot of people want what you would get with a franchisee model, but don't want to pay anywhere near what it would cost. So there's a balance there. There's a delicate balance, I think, between like expectations of what you're getting and what you're paying for and things like that. And it's evolving still. It's still evolving.
Well, not just to mention the $3,000, which, yes, for those of you that are going to hate on David, yes, it's a lot of money, but what he said was relative to a franchise model. So, $3,000 is a lot, but I mean, if you ever look into opening a McDonald's, any sort of fast food restaurant, it's, if not tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands up front, plus, a percentage of what you're bringing in, et cetera. And the other aspect of that I think box owners fail to recognize, they only want the good. Like, hey, if you get more, there's going to be a lot more rules too. It's not going to be tools, not rules. It's going to be rules and rules. Like, this is the color you wear. These are the hours you're open. These are the workouts you program. So I think that's a bigger component to it than most people recognize.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you see a lot of, I don't want you to out anybody, but are there some dumb questions coming in from these affiliates? Okay, let's not say dumb, because you're much nicer than I am. Questions where you're like, really? Are you asking me this?
I think there are things like scenarios that someone might present that from the outside, seem nonsensical or, man, how could you have gotten to this scenario? But I think that, like, it's really easy to judge from the outside. Like, we've all done things or been, whether it be in like a problematic relationship or, had things in our lives that like we justify. Like, so like, I'll give a fake example of like, you have a, really terrible coach who's, slept with 20 of the women at the gym already and has a bad reputation. And from the outside, you're like, obviously fire this jabroni. Like, what is wrong with you? But like, that affiliate owner might have this relationship and they feel like they owe this person, and they have this sense that how can we possibly run the gym without them? And, you know, and not to validate those actions at all, but like, I think that you have to look at from the, like, we're all very fallible. And a lot of times in my experience, things that kind of seem the most like, wow, I can't believe you're doing that, ultimately come from a good place of them trying to help someone or give someone a second chance, or, you know, that kind of stuff. So I think that you have to look at it from a very human and empathetic perspective of like, on the outside, it's very obvious. And you hear that a lot. So you'll do like roundtables. We have the roundtable program, which we just finished the pilot of, and that's where you're meeting with up to 9 affiliates every other week. And there's like these prompts that you go through, and people become very vulnerable and talk about what they're doing. And most people get there. So once you start asking the right questions, you know, people will be like, yeah, I guess they did do this. You know, I should do that. How would you feel? You know, like, people can get to that end on their own. They just sometimes need that reflection or that person to be asking the right questions. Definitely not telling them what to do. You know, so if I say, Jason, you're an idiot, just fire this guy, you're just going to put up a wall to me and be like, well, you don't get it. You don't understand all the nuance around this situation, whether or not there actually is.
Well, considering I think you're describing a scenario from Albany CrossFit circa 2009, but, you know, and I think a lot of that is also, you know, speaking from that empathy perspective, you know, we forget like, hey, maybe that's your only coach, and maybe you got 2 kids at home, and your wife is, you know, going to divorce you if you spend more time at the box. So you keep on the wrong people because that's all you can do right now. So yeah, I think, you know, you probably witnessed as well that transformation and growth mindset in CrossFit, where I think I don't often give people answers because there is no right answer. Everything is really, you know, subjective, and there is, I love saying there's no right or wrong in CrossFit. There's no black and white. There's a whole lot of gray. And if you try to pigeonhole or you try to plug and play a CrossFit affiliate, it's not going to work.
Yeah. And I think that like we as affiliate owners straddle these 2 lines of a business owner and a community leader. And those are 2 very different things, you know, where things that you will not tolerate as a business owner, as a community leader, you try to be more flexible, accommodating, empathetic, patient, etc. with, and vice versa. So I think sometimes those 2 worlds come into conflict a bit. And there's a lot of nuance of like not getting too sucked into community leader, where it's like, we need to make everyone happy no matter what, you know, even if it's a bad decision for the business. We can't be too far into the, you know, just purely business. This is dollars and cents, and we're not working with real people here who have, you know, lives and families and backgrounds and emotions. So I think that's particularly challenging for CrossFit coaches and affiliate owners, because more than most other businesses, we're like really in the thick of both of those. Like the connections we have with people are so much deeper than the more transactional nature of most businesses. So it's definitely like, you know, you look at a perspective as like, I can't believe you're letting that happen from the business owner perspective. But if you kind of shift your perspective a little bit, like you said, like, well, what is this relationship? Oh, they went to high school together. They've been friends for 20 years. And if they fire this person, they could ruin their life from their perspective. You know, it's complicated. And I agree with you. It's rarely helpful just to tell people what to do, but just to ask them the right questions to kind of have them begin to analyze why they're doing what they're doing, or why they're resisting doing something, perhaps.
And I think also just reminding box owners that they're not alone. Sometimes, like you said, box owners live in a bubble and they think, you know, of the 15,000 affiliates, no one else has dealt with this. Like, you don't, we've had that all the time in affiliate. You like, no, you don't get it. And I'm like, yeah, we did this, you know, we had the same scenario, or we had the same problems, or no, I live in a rural area, so my rates need to be $75 a month. Like, no, you have a Starbucks in your town. You don't live in a rural area. So I think it's important to just remind them and to be able to have those conversations with other people.
Yeah. And I think just talking it out sometimes, like a lot of through the roundtables, there was things that came up where people had never just verbalized them to somebody else, explained the situation. It's just this big storm in their head of emotions and complexities that they're, either putting up a wall to or dealing with or whatever. And there was sometimes people would just talk through what's going on, and people would have a question like, well, how long has this person been around? And, do they get along with other people in the community? And like once they start talking through the questions, it kind of seems obvious, like, yeah, this is not really working, So, again, like I've heard all sorts of questions. I wouldn't call any of them dumb, like 9.5 times out of 10, there's some root virtue they're trying to hold on to, whether it be loyalty to the person or not wanting to shake the boat too much or not wanting to raise their prices, even though they're vastly underpriced because they don't want to, get anyone upset, whatever it might be, get members upset, things like that. So there's usually a good cause. And that I think has been the most unifying thing. I haven't met, really anybody who's just like an affiliate owner who's like, you're just a dick. You're just like not in this thing for the right. And I'm sure they're out there, but the people that I've had the pleasure of talking with, they're all in it for the right reasons. They're all like, I want to help people. This changed me. I want to, push that forward in the world. I want to leave the world a better place than I came in, that kind of stuff. So I think that, we can spin our wheels if we can get into situations that are, ineffective or problematic or destructive or whatever, but, it's because we're human.
Yeah, box ownership isn't for everybody. That's why, coaches are out there. That's why, there are other career paths. I think box ownership it can be the best thing in your life, or it can destroy your life if not done properly. And anything else that you would recommend that box owners consider that they do? I mean, I know that's a very broad question, but maybe what's your top piece of advice for box owners that they might not be thinking about, that with your 15 years of affiliate ownership experience, you can say, hey, this was something that truly benefited CrossFit South Brooklyn?
I think, as I mentioned before, I think that treating your employees like humans is important, in terms of like trying to pay them right, trying to create a work environment that makes sense for them, that's sustainable. Your coaches are the stewards of your business. We effectively are in the service industry. We're providing the service of training services, of an experience, and a lot of people, I think, now, yes, like, obviously there's two things here. Like there's one is that like you might have this amazing employee who you think your business really hinges on them, and maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But at the same time, like you have to invest in people. It's the most important thing. Like I think we're in the business of relationships more than anything else, and I think that if you really invest in the relationships with your staff and your members, it comes back to pay you. It's like I don't have like a business plan. We've never had it was just like for many years, just see your pants, like show up and have fun. And I know that's like less sexy now these days because everyone wants to what's your ROI and what's your this and what's your that? And I'm like, I don't know, man. We just like have a good time. We treat people well. We have fun doing it. We try to pay the coaches, living wages and make it fun for them and not burn people out and meet with them. And that's the kind of the work you put in every day. That's the sweat equity that every single day, your interactions, like that's the most important thing for us. I've said this before, but I'll say, I think like the recipe for any successful affiliate is professional, inclusive, effective, and fun. And if you have those four things, a professional environment, professional coaches who know how to work with people, inclusive, doesn't matter who walks through your doors, you're going to have a space for that person and you'll be able to meet them where they're at. Effective, are you keeping people safe? Are you getting them better? Are people improving their capacity? Or, that's ultimately what we're doing. And then fun, the title of your podcast, this is the best hour of their day. Especially now more than ever, like for so many people, it really is the best hour of their day. It's the only time they leave their apartment, to go somewhere and be around other people. So I think that's like the secret sauce, that it's general enough that can be expressed and manifested in infinite ways. But I think those are the root things: the professional, inclusive, effective, and fun. That if you nail those four things, you can't help but be successful.
I love it. I think you're absolutely right. And I think if a box owner is listening, they probably need to go back and re-listen because that was great advice. So Dave, before we hop off, I don't think we did this on the original, and I don't do this anymore, but because you're an OG, give me the Mount Rushmore of CrossFit. You are Mount Rushmore.
My Mount Rushmore?
And since it's been a while since your last history class, that's 4 people.
Yeah, got it. Who is my Mount Rushmore? I'm gonna put Adrian Bosman on there.
You know,
I'm gonna put Adrian.
We all know you and Adrian are super tight. So why Boz? Other than he's potentially your closest friend.
Yeah, so Adrian's one of my closest friends. We hosted a seminar, I think like 2009 or something like that, and we were just fast friends. But Adrian's just like, he's been around forever. He's been a part of the community. He's been a staple of the community for a long time. He's just a good guy. Like, he's in it for all the right reasons. He wants to help people. He wants to meet people where they're at. He's professional. He always shows up for stuff. And I don't know. I have no limit of good things to say about Adrian.
All right.
Adrian Bosman. Oh, this is stressful now. 4 other people here. 3 other people. Let's put Nicole Carroll on there. OG. I was thinking of the original girls, but someone who's been around. I think she's definitely earned her keep there. 2 other people. I'm trying to think of like a someone you would not expect potentially. Let's put Jason Ackerman on there. I'm gonna grease you up a little bit, put you on there. No, I mean, I think that I think what you embody too, I'll say this, is that you have the, experience as an affiliate owner, but then even after that, you transition to, trying to help the community, putting out resources to better the community. So I think that kind of speaks to the heart of so much of what CrossFit's really all about, is leave the room better than when you came in. And it wasn't just like, boom, I'm done with affiliation. Have fun, y'all. Peace. I'm out. It's that investment into, so you see it from all perspectives, from kind of like the private sector of CrossFit, with your own products that you have, with the seminar staff, with affiliate ownership. I think you have that spectrum of experience in the affiliate community. And then who else? I'm going to put Chris Spieler on there. I think Chris Spieler, in a lot of ways, I think embodies the essence of CrossFit of, he can be a top level competitor, but he's a super humble guy, really great guy, runs a great gym, doing it for all the right reasons. And you can't be more OG than Chris Spieler.
I think that's the best Mount Rushmore I've ever heard someone come up with. And it's
stressful. I'm sweating now.
That's interesting. And everybody has a different take. I like it. Yours clearly comes from that affiliate mindset, which I think is what it's all about. Being an affiliate owner is one of those things that is very hard, and I wouldn't recommend necessarily turning off. Sure, take time off. Actually, one last question. What's the longest period of time you've taken away from, not including the pandemic, but whether it's vacation or just not showing up at the box? What's the longest period of time you've taken away from South Brooklyn?
Probably like 10 days or so. That's like the longest vacation that I've been on. I went to Ecuador a little while back. I think that it would have been easier before. So now I'm running a smaller operation where I'm a lot more involved in the day-to-day in terms of coaching classes and stuff like that. But I think, prior to the last several years, it's kind of classes run, people show up, it's big enough, and our systems are codified enough that, I'm not someone that needs to be there every single turn, to make sure everything happens. The gym will run, but I enjoy being there and I enjoy being part of it, so even if I am on vacation, I want to be invested in it, not because I have to, but because I want to be invested in it and I want to see what's going on. But I could, get in a car wreck, this afternoon and, be out for a month and the gym will continue to run and run well, for sure.
Let's make sure that doesn't happen. But I I think that's important. I think, yes, as a box owner, whether it's a week, 10 days, 2 weeks, if you can't step away for that long, you don't have much of a business because the business is running you. So it's, but that's great. We don't say you have to take that time off, but just the fact that you could is what's important. So
I think, can I add one quick thing?
Of course.
This is, so I was thinking about this, like, this is a big change for us. I think we're known as a large gym, which we are relatively speaking. Prior to closure, we had about 1,000 active members, and it would hover between like the mid 9s and then a little bit over 1,000, and then back it would kind of go in that range, up and down a little bit. Right now, we're hovering around low 500. I think 512 is the last time I checked. And I think that like the pandemic, and this is true of a lot of gyms that I've talked to, really hit the reset button. You can just keep going and going. There's a lot of momentum behind things, and it's hard to change things. The gym that I'm running now feels more like the gym that I had like 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. And I think that's ultimately a good thing. And I don't want to be as big as I used to be. We had a very active, very large membership, and, we're still continuing to grow. And it's not that I don't want to grow, but I think a lot of people, like, success doesn't mean you're this giant affiliate. You might have 150 members, and if you have a good work-life balance and you can pay your bills and pay your coaches, like, that's success, because being a big gym is a lot. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of people managing. It's a lot of moving parts. It's a lot of members. It's a lot of wear and tear on the gym. And it's a lot of work. And I feel like it had gotten so big, and I had begun to get to a point where I wasn't doing the things that I wanted to do as much. So like right now, like I've got like 15 or so classes a week that I'm doing, which is a little bit more than I want to be doing. I'm going to try to pare that down. I'm doing the programming again. It feels, I know all the members now. It definitely got to a point where, not that you need to know everybody forever, but like there was plenty of people who I had no idea who they were, just because the gym had gotten so big. So, and we had big classes. We had classes with 2 coaches. We would have 25, 30 people plus sometimes. And we were really good at logistics and making it work and communicating and timestamps, but then you hit that reset button, and like our classes are 16 right now. And I'm like, I don't ever want to change this. I don't ever want to go more than 16 people. I would rather charge a little more and then provide a better experience for fewer people. And I'm just really appreciating the simplicity that we lost a whole bunch of programs, which in some fronts is, sad, and things I miss, and some things we'll definitely bring back. But bigger is not always better. Just better is better. That's a big thing. I think a lot of people look at South Brooklyn like this aspirational. That's what I want it to be. Maybe yes, maybe no. I've been there, and like I wouldn't want it to be as big as it used to be. I want to. Yeah, go. That's it.
No, that's something we preach too. I think you and I, I don't want to say growing up, but kind of evolving in the same era. It was like, yeah, let's get to 200, 300, 500 members. That's what success is. Where nowadays, I don't own a box, but if I did, and the boxes that we work with, it's like you just need 100 really badass members that show up, that pay your full rate, that when you put out a new cool shirt, will buy it, that when you run Murph, they're going to show up early and stay late. That's success. And turns out you can make more money that way too, if you do it right. You don't need, more members, more problems, if you will.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, and it's really great.
And it's expensive too. It's expensive. Like we doubled our space 8 years ago. We expanded, and as we got bigger, our profit margins started to get smaller. And it's like we had more total money coming in, but it was just more expensive business to run, and a lot of stress and a lot of work and a lot of staying on top of a million different programs and people and things and needs. And I think we did it as well as you could do it. But I'm definitely appreciating a slower, smaller gym for sure. For sure.
Awesome. I love it. Well, in case people don't know where to find you, where can people find David Osorio, CrossFit South Brooklyn, etc.?
So the gym is just on Instagram at CFSBK. or cfsbk.com. That's our website. Where can you find me? You can email me. CrossFit.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll just
People.
What were you say?
No, people love that. Where can they email you?
Just david@crossfitsouthbrooklyn.com.
Pretty
Or
simple.
Yeah. You can reach out to me, especially if you're New York, New Jersey affiliates. Reach out to me if we haven't talked yet, as your district rep. Yeah, I'm around. I mean, I'm on Instagram. I don't post a ton. Halloween was last week posted, so.
Very artistic stuff when you do post. So it's always good to get some insight. But it's always a pleasure to talk to you. I mean, you and I you are perhaps one of my longest tenured friends from CrossFit that wasn't a member of my affiliate. I've told the story. You showed up at the East Coast CrossFit Challenge, the first ever non-CrossFit Games event. You were there to help out with your buddies in your jean shorts, and I convinced you to sign up. So it was really awesome. And ever since then, we've stayed in touch. So really cool. I'm always, super happy to see your success, and hopefully I'll see you soon, whether it's at the CrossFit Games or another affiliate gathering. Hopefully I'll see you soon.
Yeah, whenever. I remember running that 5K in tennis shoes and jorts. Just being like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, all right. Well, thanks again, David. We appreciate you coming on.
All right. Good to see you, Jason.
So you never miss an episode of the podcast, subscribe to our YouTube channel and on all major podcasting platforms at Best Hour of Their Day. Thank you so much for tuning in and for being a part of the best hour of our day. See you next time.